Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Into the Void Real review, and this time we are reviewing the Marvels. I just got back from watching this, so this is a record time that I'm actually recording right after I've seen a movie. So my thoughts are fresh for the good and the bad. So, as you know, the three main actors in this movie are Brie Larson, Tiona Paris, and Imani Vellani. Mani Vali is Kamala Khan, Tiona Paris is Monica Rambeau, and Brie Larson is Carol Danvers. And then we also have reprising his roles Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson. So that is the cast. There are some cameos. I don't want to get into it too much. There might be some slight spoilers in this review. I apologize. But really, it's this movie. Right off the bat, I have to say I enjoyed it. I'm glad I went and seen it. It's better than the first Miss Marvel. So it does have that going for it. And I mean, I think it has some cool tie-ins with future Marvel things going on, things that are going to happen in the Marvel universe. There are some definite threads that you will very much appreciate. And that's a lot of the positives with this movie. Another thing that I really enjoyed was the look of the film's fantastic. I think the special effects are top notch. They're really good. I think another thing that's great is there is good chemistry, which is very important in this movie with the three actors playing off each other as the Marvels. I think they're all great. Definite standout, I have to agree with a lot of other reviewers, is Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan. I think she does it really good. I have to say there were a couple of times she might have been a little annoying in the beginning, but she redeems herself pretty quickly. And she ends up still being the standout, even with those little quibbles. So, what I have a major problem with is I think when I was watching this movie, I was like, something's off. And I couldn't put my finger on it. And I had to really look at it. And then what I came away with is I think really what's off is the editing of this movie. And I'm not sure, but I can't put my finger on it. But I think it might have to do not really with, maybe it's not the editing. Maybe it's the fact that, as you may know, if you've watched the trailer, you know that all the Miss Marvels in this movie, they have an issue when the time-space continuum is ripped apart by the villain. They end up, every time they use their powers, they change places. So in this movie, when in the beginning, when they're fighting people, one person will be fighting and there'll be this flow going, and then all of a sudden it'll snap to the next person. When she ends up using her powers, it immediately, these ladies change places, and then it'll be, instead of Kamala Khan fighting, it'll be Carol Danvers is fighting. And so it's a little disjointed. It's kind of cool take on the action, but it's also makes it disjointed, I think. And there's not, that flow is kind of broken throughout. And I think that's a major problem with some of the action scenes. And only when you get to at the end, there's a really good action scene. And oddly enough, it's because they actually don't have that problem anymore where they're switching places when they use their powers. They're actually, and they're all together fighting the villain. And so that's a really good scene, action scene. So there was that problem. I think that it was cool, but it also made the action disjointed. And I also feel like maybe the editing, even with that, I think it's just the editing was a little bit off. It didn't flow very well. I think also the acting, or not the acting. The acting was good. My mistake. It's the writing. What these actors had to work with wasn't a lot. I think the writing was a little bit weak, but their chemistry was good. So they made a really go of it and did a good job considering the material. So those are the two main problems. Is just the execution of the film wasn't the strongest point of it. It's something to say that it was still entertaining. I was still entertained. I still enjoyed myself. I still, and I think maybe it helped that it wasn't super long. It was only under 2 hours. One of the shortest Marvel movies. So that helped, I think. So I think mainly my problem, and there's one other problem that we have to touch on, is the villain's not the strongest. I think that actor, it's not that she's not a good actor. I think it's just that role doesn't fit her. I don't think the casting was good for the villain part. And it's Darbin is the villain. And she's in, I thought it was pretty cool. I do feel that the reason you can kind of identify with the villain, which is always good. You don't. I think the weakest villains are the ones that just are evil because. But this one, that's not the problem. I think you can almost kind of see why the villain is doing what they're doing. You know, their planet has lost its resources, so she's stealing resources. Granted, she's stealing resources, but she is doing it because her own home is in danger because of their dwindling resources. So, and then also, Carol Danvers is almost treated as a villain in a way because she has a lot to do with the fact that the planet is dying. Their planet is dying. She's a main reason why that is because she was responsible for it. So that was interesting to put Carol Danvers in a negative light as a flawed hero, which is showing that she had her own flaws, and she tries to make good with those flaws and make up for those flaws in the end. So that there was that little arc in the movie that was rather well done, although still it wasn't completely fleshed out. So I think that was a main issue. Even though that was good, it still wasn't fleshed out. I think that's the main thing. Like, a lot of it is just execution, editing, and writing. And then nothing was fleshed out very well. So that's a big part of the movie that hurts it. Even with the good chemistry, even with the good look of the film, the good special effects, I think even with all that, it's not a bad movie because I still would put it a little bit better. It's good. It's basically, it's a good movie, but not a great movie. It's better than the first Miss Marvel. Like I said, I think it's better than that one. So there's that going for it. And there's 2 other movies I watched that were Marvel movies this year. So if I had to rank out of the 3, because I watched Ant-Man, Quantumania, and I watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and then this one. And if I had to rank them, I would put Guardians of the Galaxy as number 1. I put Miss Marvel number 2, and Ant-Man, Quantumania number 3. So it's still not the weakest of this year, but it is not. It's in the middle or bottom half of the Marvel movies if I had to rank them overall. But yeah, the cool thing with this movie, there are some things that are in. Unfortunately, it's in the end credit scenes, and at the ending, there's some good setup for other things that happen outside of this movie that are cool. But the movie itself kind of lacks that spark. I will say, and this is probably your mileage may vary because it depends where you go see the movie. So I can't really say this is a plus or a minus for the movie because this is just when you go see it. I really did. I went and saw this in a Dolby enhanced movie theater, and it was fantastic. It was you could really feel when Miss Marvel flew in the air, and you could feel the visceral speed, and it was really cool. And then when there was a rip in the space-time continuum, when there was that happening, you could feel the vibration, and you could feel it. And it was really one of those movies that has a really good sound if you go to a movie theater that accommodates that. So that was good. Overall, I did enjoy this movie. It was something I'm glad I went and seen it, but I still think it's not an essential watch. I think you can wait on this one. I think you should see it so that you can see the tie-ins that they do in this movie with the other things that are going to happen in the future in the Marvel Universe. I think you owe it to yourself to do that. But if I'm going to give it a grade, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's a good movie, not a great movie, and I think that's my take on it. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you in the next one.